Today's video is going to be a little bit different. What I would like to do today is I would like to discuss a new audio interface, one that has completely revolutionized my audio setup. And the one that I'm talking about is the Lewitt Connect 6. This is the box. I'm not going to show you my actual device because it is buried in cables and I don't want you to make fun of my cable management. But this audio interface has a couple of features that no other audio interface has, at least not to my knowledge. So I figured I create a video kind of talking about the 6 reasons why I believe this might be the ideal audio interface for content creation. So let's get started. But first of all, hello everybody. In case you're new here, my name is Michael Wagner. I teach at the Antoinette Westphal College of Media Arts and Design at Drexel University in Philadelphia. And on this channel, I talk about digital media, game design, and spatial audio. And if any of those topics interest you, I invite you to subscribe or join my Discord community. Invite link is in the description below, and please also don't forget to press the like button in case you get any value out of my videos, because it really helps the YouTube algorithm and it helps this channel. Now, before I continue any further, I need to point out that this is not a sponsored video, even though it might seem like one. I'm genuinely excited about this device. I actually bought it myself. I'm not taking any sponsorship from anybody, so everything that I talk and everything that I say is strictly my own opinion. Just wanted to make sure that that is clear. Now, the way I became aware of this audio interface was through a series of YouTube videos that popped up in my subscription feed. A couple of really well-known YouTubers in the audio production environment talked about this interface and how great it really is. And I first didn't pay too much attention to it because I honestly didn't really need another 2-channel audio interface. But then I started to realize that this is from an Austrian company and I'm Austrian, so I figured let's have a look on what other Austrians are doing. Now, once I looked closer at the capabilities of this audio interface, I started to realize that this audio interface solves pretty much any problem that I had in my setup. It's almost as if somebody came to me and asked me, Michael, what are the exact things that you need? And we're going to build an audio interface exactly for you. It's really that perfect for my setup. I'm using pretty much every single feature that the audio interface provides, and there isn't a single feature that I'm missing. So let's have a look at how I've set it up and why this is so perfect for what I'm doing and why this might be perfect for you as well if you're in any field of audio or content production. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the hardware unit itself, which has a very interesting design. There are many YouTube videos out there now that show you how the hardware works, so I'm not going to do that, primarily because I can't really show you my cable management now. That just is not meant for public consumption. What I'm going to do instead, I'm going to look at the capabilities of the software that comes with it, which is very, very capable, which is the Lewitt Control Center, and what you essentially can do with it and how you can use it in order to route things around and do different things that are really relevant for audio and content production. And this brings us to the first reason why I think this is such a great unit, and this is the fact that the Lewitt Connect 6 has an onboard DSP. So there's some signal processing going on the interface directly. Now, in order to access that, you go into the Lewitt Control Center, and here you have for each of the 2 inputs an expander, a compressor, and an equalizer. Now, to set those up, you can either set those up manually, but you can also go through the auto setup function. And the auto setup function, what it really does is it guides you through a sequence of questions and then kind of gives you the best settings possible. It will make the settings for you for the expander, for the compressor. It will not make any adjustments to the equalizer. That is something that you have to do manually. So in my case, for example, I have my voice has a very nasty resonance at 1.5 kilohertz. So I needed to take that out. And then I kind of took out a little bit of the bloat here and kind of just a little bit in the higher frequencies as well. But you can do that manually, and this is done, or this is processed directly on the unit itself. So the interface is through the Lewitt Control Center, but the actual processing is done on the interface itself. And that is very, very interesting and very, very capable, and usually not seen in interfaces that are that inexpensive. The second reason is that this unit can function as a GoXLR replacement. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, essentially, when you connect the audio interface to your computer via USB, what you essentially get is not one output. You actually get 3 pairs of stereo outputs. These are outputs 1, 2, outputs 3, 4, and output 6, 5, 6, and they can be addressed individually, similar to what you have in a GoXLR. So you can, for example, send your, if you have a USB mic, you can set that USB mic to output 1 and 2. You can send your game audio to output 3, 4, and then your system audio to outputs 5, 6. Now, if you go into a DAW, for example, like for example, I have Ableton Live here. If you go into the options settings, into the preferences, you will actually see in the output configurations that you have access to these 3 stereo pairs. And you can use them in all kinds of ways. You can use them, for example, in this particular case, it's probably not really a good use case, but nevertheless, it is a use case. So what I've done here is I've taken 3 tracks and 3 loops and I've routed them to the 3 different stereo output pairs. And if I'm now playing that, I can actually see the audio coming in at outputs 1, 2, outputs 3, 4, and outputs 5, 6. Now, in the control center, you can then create 2 separate mixes. You can create a mix A and a mix B. Now, in my particular case, what I've done here is these 2 mixes are essentially identical, with the only exception that the microphone that I'm using is routed into mix A, but not into mix B. So mix B, to some extent, is a mix minus. But essentially, we can use the control center in the very same way you would use a GoXLR and then adjust the audio levels accordingly and mix them in 2 different mixes that you can then use in order to route them further. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. The third reason why this is such a great unit is the fact that this actually serves as, or it can serve as, an audio interface for 2 computers simultaneously. So if you have a 2 computer setup, for example, for streaming, you can use this as one audio interface that serves both computers simultaneously. The way this is done is through a second USB connection that you can make with the Lewitt Connect 6, and this second USB connection is called the mobile in, because it's generally used for mobile input. So for example, if you have an iPhone or any other phone and you want to connect it to the Lewitt Connect 6, you can do that through USB, and it will then essentially function as simply as a digital analog converter and route that audio into your mix. Now, because this is just a USB connection, you can actually also connect a second computer to that, and that's exactly the way I've done that here. So in my setup, I have a Windows machine here and I have a Mac on the side, and the Mac is essentially connected to the Lewitt Connect 6 via the mobile in USB connection. And if I now play something on my Mac, it will actually show up here in the mobile in. And similarly to any regular user audio interface, you can also choose what the output is. So you can also send part of the audio to the computer back. That essentially means that this audio interface really functions as a fully functional audio interface for 2 computers simultaneously. You can use them at the same time. You can mix them. You can route the audio from one computer into the other computer and vice versa. It's really great for anybody who has a 2-computer setup. In addition to the second USB-C input, there's also an auxiliary input, which is a 3.5 millimeter stereo input that you can use for any device that has a regular stereo output and that you want to channel into the audio interface. And as soon as you connect something here, it will actually show up in exactly the same way as all the other interfaces. So you will get these 2 sliders and the 2 buttons that allow you to kind of change the way the signal is mixed into the 2 mixes, into mix A and mix B. But that's actually not all, and that brings us to the 4th reason why I think this is such a great interface, and actually one of the main reasons for me. If you remember in my video where I showed you how my studio works, I said that it is incredibly important for me that all the signal processing can be done without the computer itself. And kind of the Lewitt Connect 6 can do that as well. It has onboard processing. And what it has not only 2 USB-C connections, it actually has 3 USB-C connections. And the 3rd USB-C connection can be used in order to supply power. So the Lewitt Connect 6 can be powered by a separate USB-C connection, which essentially means that you can use this as a standalone DSP unit. You can use it as an audio interface for 1 PC, or you can use it as an audio interface for 2 PCs simultaneously. And this is actually unique. I don't think any other audio interface is capable of doing that. Reason number 5 has to do with the way you can use the Lewitt Connect 6 as a means to do multi-track recording on your primary PC. Now, in order to understand how this works, we need to look at how the user interface actually advertises itself in a digital audio workstation. So let's go to Ableton. And in Ableton, if we go into the preferences and if we look into the input configuration, we see that the Lewitt Connect 6 actually advertises itself as a 12-channel input device. Now, where do these 12 channels come from? And that's actually fairly easy to see. Well, first of all, channels 1 and 2 are the input 1 and 2. So those are the two mono inputs that are coming in through the two XLR connections. Channels 3 and 4 are the auxiliary input. So this stereo pair can be kind of routed into the digital audio workstation separately. 5 and 6 is the mobile in. So if I'm playing anything on my Mac, I can actually kind of record that in my Ableton session by selecting channels 5 and 6. 7 and 8 are the loopback. There's an additional loopback possibility here. Currently, I'm looping back mix A, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. We will see in a second. But what you can do, for example, is you can change that to pretty much anything else. So, for example, if I want to loop back output 3 and 4, for whatever reason, I can actually do that. So anything that I'm sending to the output 3, 4 in the primary PC will then be routed back as inputs 7 and 8 through the Lewitt Connect 6. And then we have inputs 9, 10, which is the stereo pair that represents mix A, and 11, 12, which represents mix B. So essentially what I can do now is I can take a digital audio workstation on my primary PC and I can record every single input that is going into the Lewitt Connect and therefore turn my primary PC into a multi-track recording station. Reason number 6 has to do with the fact that the Lewitt Connect 6 is the almost perfect companion piece to the Atem Mini ISO Extreme. Now, why is this the case? Let me explain. The reason lies in the fact that we can select what we are going to send to the individual hardware outputs of the Lewitt Connect 6. So we have essentially 4 outputs. We have the regular speaker output, we have the headphones 1, we have headphones 2, and we have the mobile out. Now, I'm not going to talk about mobile out now because that's sort of sent back to my second PC. That's already clear. What I'm primarily interested here is the speaker and headphone outputs. Now, I can select what I'm going to send to those. And the way I've set it up here is that I'm sending the mix B to the speakers themselves. The mix B, if you remember, is essentially the mix minus. So this is everything but my microphone. So I can't really send that to the regular speakers because if I would do that, I would get a feedback loop. So it's sort of really the mix minus. And in addition to that, I'm sending the microphone or the microphone input to the headphone number 1. Now, the reason I'm doing it that way is because this now allows me to route the 2 audio signals separately to the Atem, to the 2 inputs of the Atem Mini ISO Extreme, and that allows me to do the final mixing of my voice with everything else in the Atem Mini. And the main advantage of that is because the Atem Mini ISO Extreme actually records all this audio separately. So in the end, what I have is I have a DaVinci Resolve project file that has the audio from the microphone separated from everything else, and that it allows me to do the final mix in the post-processing phase. So this is really very, very convenient. Now, I should also mention that there are actually 2 outputs that are speaker outputs. There is a balanced output and an unbalanced output. And the way I've set it up here is that the balanced output goes through to my regular monitoring setup, so essentially my speakers and everything, and my headphones and everything. And the unbalanced output is the one that is connected to the Atem Mini ISO Extreme. Now, the only thing that's not completely perfect here is the fact that I'm routing the headphone output of the Lewitt Connect 6 into the microphone input of the Atem Mini. But as it turns out, that's perfectly fine. You just need to make sure that the gain settings are set correctly so that you have a consistent signal between the 2 outputs. One, once again, coming in through the line out of the Lewitt Connect and the other one through the headphone out. So these are the 6 reasons why this is actually the perfect device for me, and it literally replaced 90% of all my hardware that I was using. And I'm extremely happy with the way it functions and the way essentially it really simplifies my workflow. So if you are like me, somebody who is creating content, somebody who is streaming, somebody who is teaching remotely, have a look at this device. It might actually be useful for you. And if it is, let me know in the comment section below. I would be really interested to hear your opinions about the interface. If you are as excited as I am, I personally once again think that the Lewitt Connect 6 is as disruptive to the audio interface market as the Atem Mini was to the video switcher market. And I'm really looking forward to what Lewitt is going to bring out next, because this is probably only going to be the start of a series of devices that are really going to disrupt everything that we do in content creation. But this is really everything I wanted to say today. Thank you again for watching. Once again, if you have any comments or questions, please use the comment section below or join my Discord community. Invite link is in the description below. And with that being said, see you at the next video.